Welcome to another episode of Strictly Business Unscripted. I'm your host, Keandra Jones. This podcast educates, ignites inspiration, fosters encouragement, and paves the way for growth among small businesses and the overall Oak Cliff community. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Dallas Zoo, Breakfast Brothers, Home Care Network, and ServPro. Thank you for your support. Now, let's get into it. Today on Strictly Business Unscripted, we're joined by AJ Ramler. AJ is a Dallas-based real estate developer and founder of Proxy Properties. He is known for transforming historic, overlooked buildings and turning them into vibrant community anchors. His projects like East Dock, the Madison Hotel, and Oak Cliff Assembly blend creative reuse with local culture, balancing grit and beauty in equal measure. AJ's work sits at the intersection of design, neighborhood identity, and long-term sustainability. He's driven by a belief that real estate can be soulful, where buildings don't just hold people, they shape connection. Beyond development, he's an artist, a musician, and father who builds with the same values he lives by: creative, honest, and intentional. Welcome, AJ. How are you today?
Great, thank you. That's great, man. You made it sound so good.
Well, yeah. That's you.
Let's go.
This is you. Yeah. So there's nothing to dream up when this is who you are.
That's very sweet.
And so we're happy to have you in our community doing good work here. We love it.
I'm grateful to be here.
Well, we're going to get right into it. First, I want to know, so you do all of these things, and we've just named some of the things that you do.
Yeah.
But who is AJ outside of all of the development? Who are you?
Yeah, so I mean, I enjoy the arts, music. I'm a painter. I have a family, so I do a lot of family stuff, traveling, etc. And yeah.
So, okay. I didn't know you were an artist, a painter.
Yes.
Well, how would you describe your paintings?
I do portrait paintings, and they're, I would say, I don't do a ton of them. I do maybe like one or two a year. But it's really more of an outlet than it is anything else for me. Just something to have my brain have space.
Oh, I love that. What do you do with your art?
Well, I had never done anything with it until we started the art walk, and then I started putting pieces in there. So now I'll put a piece in every time we do the art walk. I'll put one or two pieces in and sell them. But yeah, it's cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very fun.
It's so interesting when I sit and chat with folks because I learn things. I mean, we know each other from the community, but then when we sit down and chat, it's like you learn the most interesting things. I had no idea you were an artist, a painter.
Yeah.
And a musician.
Yeah, music first. I've done music my entire life. So I've started playing guitar when I was a kid, and I play a little bit of piano also, and do that kind of singer-songwriter stuff. And only for me, again. I've never played in front of anyone, but it's just for my own relaxation and enjoyment.
Yeah. So, any aspirations of being in a band or?
Nope. No aspirations of being in a band. I really don't like being in front of people, so that would be that would not be good for me. But I just enjoy it. It's just something for me to have my own space to be creative and process ideas and etc.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so an artist and a real estate developer. How did you go from, well, I guess not from, you do both of them.
Yeah.
So how did you get into real estate development?
Yeah, so I really wasn't trying to do, we weren't trying to do real estate development. We were just trying to buy duplexes and quadplexes and stuff and just invest. We were like, hey, we're going to buy them, invest, and then hopefully over time create enough passive income where we could, have more freedom to pursue other things or to travel or et cetera. So as we got going, that was 2012 when we started. January 2013 is when we actually closed on our first property. It just became harder and harder to find properties that you could just buy off the shelf that were ready to go and leasable and still would actually make money. So that's when we started looking for a little project property. So it started with I'll buy a little house here and we'll fix it up or buy that. And then it just over time, we liked that part of it also, trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together. We had an accident happened at one of our properties when SUV ran into it. So, and it was really bad. I mean, it really was a terrible situation. But it taught us a lot because we had to learn how to fix the building. We had to restructure the debt on the building. We had to do this big insurance claim. And that kind of set us up for understanding how to do these larger projects. And that was probably 10 years ago now or something.
Okay. So, but the way that you develop projects, we can tell that there is a passion about the way that you do it. We have all the time in Oak Cliff, we've got developers that come in and they do what they do, but there's no passion behind the project. Where does your project passion come from?
Well, I think first it's just an appreciation for a time that people cared more about architecture, cared more about quality construction. And so these old buildings have like so much more, the quality in which they were originally built is so far beyond what most of the stuff that's being built today. So you're able to, when you find these old properties, you're able to kind of really understand what the original intent of the architecture and design was. And that by itself can be quite inspiring. And then when you see, I guess the artist side of me comes out when you see these buildings that are like completely, a lot of the ones we're going into are like really bad condition. Like the roofs are caved in, or there's been a bad fire, or like they're just completely falling apart most of the time with the stuff we're buying. And like, as the artist, I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, this is like something that's, it is a piece, a project to be put back together, and that's very, very exciting. I think that's always my most favorite part of the project is when we first walk up and we're trying to figure out, okay, like, what do you do with this, church that's like burnt halfway down, or this, property that the roof's caved in on, and that's where the creative aspect of it comes from, I think.
So I just now made the connection, the artist to the developer. I mean, I'm a little slow, so I just now made that connection. That makes so much sense. As an artist, to take an older building, that makes sense. Okay, I got it. Okay. Okay, so which kind of leads into the next question. So Oak Cliff Assembly, that was formerly a church.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me about what you saw when you saw that old church and what you wanted it to be. When did the light bulb go off to say, okay, this could be this?
Yeah, I mean, that the Oak Cliff Assembly, as much as any other property I've ever walked in, it was like kind of awe-strucking because in the sanctuary space, the pews were all still there, but the plaster from the ceilings had fallen on top of the pews.
Oh wow!
So and it was just like, and stuff was flipped around and messed up, and then the three corners of the roofs were caved in, so it was like water. The floor was sloped. They call it a raked floor, so it's coming down like to the podium, and it was a bunch of standing water because it was concrete. So it was like water. I mean, it was just like this like total, it was a disaster, but also it was like really, really beautiful, and it was just the kind of like thing where you're like, no one else gets to see this. And so really that was when I was like, this is a cool project. This would really allow you to be able to like think about stuff different and try to do something that's unique. It was very much our first project to do that was like way outside the box of traditional real estate development. And then the next step for us is like you just start being curious with the neighbors, curious with the property, curious with the architect or the builder. Like, what can we do? Really exploring like what resonates with the neighbors and the people. In Oak Cliff, like your client base is the people within 2-3 miles of you. Like sometimes you get people that come in from down south or up north, but most of your people are going to be the people in the neighborhood. So you got to really understand what they want, because if you do something they don't want, it's going to fall flat, which we see happen all the time at Oak Cliff, where someone comes in from out of Oak Cliff, thinks they got a brilliant idea for Oak Cliff, and then it doesn't work. Right. So that was kind of the first step. And then I really wanted to keep the sanctuary space something that people could see regularly. So I didn't want to make it in the office, because I wanted it to be something that the community and people that a lot of people would have the opportunity to see over the time that we were stewarding it. So that's kind of why we're like, okay, what is a theater space? Now it is interesting. There's actually still the church that we bought it from still meets there. There's like 8 members or so left in that church. They're all on the older side, like probably the younger side of them is like in their 70s and the 80s. So, but they still meet there. And then we actually have another church that meets there now. And so how it's ended up at the Oak Cliff Assemblies, we had 23-ish different organizations on campus. So it's become like a campus of like, and it's everything from nonprofits to business owners to arts groups to it's really that runs the whole, including our group still offices there. And it's just cool. I mean, it's just really fun in that way to see a property that's just activated. It's activated all different times too. So in the day we have office people there. In the evening there's events there, and it's just and the theater space itself has been tricky. To be candid with you, I'm not a business. I'm a real estate person. I like fixing old buildings. I don't know the first thing about running a theater space. So that's been kind of interesting, tricky. But I think we're like getting in a good rhythm now. We have stuff going there most weekends, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's pretty fun.
So, I used to take voice lessons there. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That's so cool. I love that.
I did. I was hesitant to tell you that because I'm not the greatest, but I did. I took voice lessons.
Let's hear a little bit.
No. You do not want that. Now, I love karaoke, but y'all are not going to be laughing at me right now. I did. I took voice lessons there. Let me see. It's been a couple years ago, but I would go downstairs, and I really just like going over there.
Yes.
It just feels good.
Yes.
Oak Cliff Assembly. It just feels so good, and it was such a great experience.
That's so
and,
cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
I loved it over there. So maybe I'll start back doing it.
Yeah, come on. Get back with the voice lessons.
Yeah.
I'm ready to come karaoke with you now.
Oh, you should. I want you to play the guitar.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
We can start a band after all.
Let's start a band.
I want to stand in the back of the stage, though, so no one sees me.
That would be fun. I always say how I would love to be in the band.
Let's go.
In a band.
Let's shift the whole podcast now to just starting the band.
Now listen, don't give me another project because I love it. I love that. I love everything about it. So Oak Cliff Assembly, was that your first project here in Oak Cliff?
No. We did a bunch of small projects before then. So we did a bunch. We were mostly doing like duplexes, quadplexes. We'd done probably 40 or 50 projects before we got to the Oak Cliff Assembly.
Okay.
And we had done a little bit of commercial work. We did a project over on Singleton on the West Dallas side. But it was like the first one where we were like, let's like try doing something bigger and more experimental with it. So yeah, it's an adventure, and I love it. And I'm there every day still because it's where
really.
So, yeah.
Well, I can see that. I mean, just the energy is good there. I love it.
Yeah, totally.
I totally love it. Now let's talk about East Dock. Yeah. What is it? Where is it? What will it be? All the things.
So East Dock's our largest project to date. It's 63,000 feet of warehouse space. That originally was warehouse space. It was built as an ice factory in 1915, so very old.
Wow.
And then many buildings were added on as the years went on. So like the first buildings were 1915. The latest buildings were probably like 1960s, maybe early 70s. The newest one. Most of them were between 1915 and 1950. So like a 35-year span where they were adding these buildings on. Now they're all connected. So to an untrained eye, it might look like one building, but it's many buildings that are like sandwiched together basically. Okay. And we bought it and we didn't really know exactly what to do with it. We just knew we were getting a good deal on it, and we liked it. Yeah. Which a lot of times is where we start. We're like, okay, this is cool. We think this is a good deal. We think there's something to be done here. Again, architecturally interesting. I mean, that's important to us, is like finding something that kind of speaks to us and we feel like we can resonate with. And then, we did, we kind of had a plan to like make it like a lot of like design district-y type tenants was the original idea. It was like, we're going to like kind of like showroom space and be like design district, like design district tenants, but like significantly cheaper was kind of the original concept. Yeah. And then we went out to the neighbor and we hosted some community feedback events, and everyone was like, retail. We want retail, retail. And they had, everyone of course wants the grocery store. We're not big enough for a grocery store. We tried to like find some like micro grocery stores, but that was the number one request. The second request would have been restaurants. They really want the neighbors really wanted the restaurants. They want a coffee shop on the east side of 35. Gyms, athletic stuff was like a big request. So we're like, okay, like let's explore that.
Yeah.
So we started working on that and kind of changed our plan up to, with that feedback in mind, and added some retail. Well, then like we get to actually going out, we're working on the project and starting to lease, and it's like the phone's ringing. I mean, people the tenants were calling saying, I got this idea, I got that idea. And so like now, like most of the property is retail. So we we have some office, and then a little tiny, like there's going to be one suite at the end of the day that ends up being like that design district-y type suite. Almost the whole thing's retail. And we have, it's been really encouraging, really cool to see these entrepreneurs come out, and some of them are relocating, probably half, and then like probably half of them are starting their first venture there. So it's very exciting. We have 2 gyms, a jiu-jitsu gym and a CrossFit weightlifting gym.
Wow.
About to sign, hopefully, a yoga studio. We have a coffee shop bakery, Kaluntu.
Wow.
That we're under construction on their space. We have a sushi place, a kind of bar snack shop type thing, and then a full-fledged restaurant, and a vintage shop that's also going to do like kind of wine night pop-ups. So it's like a ton of stuff. It's
God.
Yeah, it's 20. I mean, it will be 20 tenants at the end of the day. And what I'm really excited about, one thing we learned on Oak Cliff Assembly, Oak Cliff Assembly is great, but it's still not quite big enough to have a lot of gravity. And I think that East Dock is going to have that gravity in a different way, where you have enough movement. And the whole concept there was an 18-hour day. We wanted from 6 a.m. to midnight, we want a business to be open every single day of the week. So that was kind of like the premise when we started looking at tenants. Okay, who can we, when we shifted to retail, it was like, how can we make sure this thing is going? There are people there from 6 a.m. until midnight. And we have now, with the tenant base we've already signed, we still have a couple that we need to sign still, but with the ones we signed, we already hit that metric of being open from 6 a.m. to midnight. So it's really cool.
I can see you having somewhat of a waiting list, especially with its proximity to like Southern Gateway.
Yeah.
I mean, everything in that area, which I'm grateful I live in that area. And so my home was a purposeful buy because of its proximity to the project. But what a smart buy. That is phenomenal that you did that. So you won't have any problems keeping that.
No, I think that the verdict after doing this, there's a lot of interesting things happening on the east side of 35.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that want to be there.
Yeah.
Several of the tenants that we signed live like right there.
Yeah.
And it's just like really cool to see the energy. Obviously, Halpern Park, the Southern Gateway Park, is like a catalyst project that we can walk to from East Dock.
Yeah.
They're actually going to put their office at East Dock, so they're officing at East Dock. They're one of our office tenants, so there'll be a lot of collaboration there, I think, for us to be had. And then frankly, there's a lot of other smaller projects happening over there right now too. Smidox Brewery, I don't know if you've talked to them, but Smidox Brewery is opening right next to East Dock.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it'll be what they told me is the first black-owned brewery in the city of Dallas.
Are you serious?
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
First black-owned brewery.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
so we've got to talk to them.
Yeah, they're great. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Really
I love all of that.
They're under. I think they're trying to open by end of the year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, or early next year, but I think the end of the year is the goal.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, thank you for that information.
Yeah.
That's cool. Maybe they can be in the band too.
Yeah, they can definitely. Maybe we can play. Our first gig can be there.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's go.
Maybe so. That would be fun. So, okay, now let's talk about the Madison Hotel, which you guys welcomed our leadership class the other day. Let's talk about that beautiful hotel you've got.
Yeah, the Madison Hotel is probably one of the more fun projects I've got to work on and that we've done, just because typically we're working on these like shoestring budgets to make this stuff work. And then Madison, we had a little bit more budget, not a lot more. We had a little bit more, so it was like we got to be have a little more freedom in the design. We actually got to hire a designer. Typically, we do a lot of our own design work, so it was like we got to hire a designer, which was fun, and also like they did so much of the work, which made the project smoother. But the property was 27 rooms. It was originally built as the Wesleyan. We are in process. We got accepted. Our application got accepted to make it a national and state historic landmark, and then we're in the process of landmarking it in this locally also. It's a really interesting property that we didn't even know was a hotel when we bought it. So when we're just buying it, we're like, hey, this is kind of interesting. Like maybe we can turn it into some apartments or some like 8 units or something. And then we got to reading about it, learning the history. And as soon as I saw the first, you can go through the Dallas Morning News archives and look at old ads. And as soon as I saw the first ad that said Wesleyan, I was like, I wish we had called it the Wesleyan. We had already kind of started branding as the Madison, but it's like, that's so cool. And this is like, it was built for Methodist Hospital, which was being built at the same time. Most likely it was built for Methodist Hospital. So there's like ads of like, so-and-so is staying there after they got their, spleen done or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like, so it's kind of cool to now, 100 years next year, be working, like serving people that are now staying in Methodist again, or their families are Methodist or whatever. So it's really, that's a special experience. And if you haven't been there, it's like, it's kind of got a funky design. It's moody, it's dark, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I love it. So what are some other historic ties to the Madison Hotel?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. There's not. I am still in the path to find out all the details of Oswald's connection to the Madison, but we know that after the JFK assassination, the FBI was at the Madison, and they were questioning basically everyone. They were questioning the housekeeper, the manager, the current owner, the previous owner, and they're asking for files on Oswald. And there's like some back and forth that goes on there. This other guy, Bohan, had said that he was living there, so that's like what led them there in the first place. Clearly now we know he was living on, I think, Beckley or Zhang, Beckley, I think, and in the boarding house there. But also that boarding house is in walking distance of the Madison. It's totally realistic that he was staying at the Madison and then hopping from boarding house over to there. They just came out, they just released some more files on the JFK assassination like a few months ago.
No.
And it's in the new files too. So we got more information recently on it, but it's the same stuff. It's just more interviews about him and his involvement or what they are trying to determine was his involvement at the time. So it's very cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And the properties, I mean, it honestly is quite the whole, like, it was open, the Great Depression happened, failed, got foreclosed on, and then like it passed hands like over and over again, and no one could figure it out. And then this woman, Alice, bought it, and she like kind of figured out how to make it work. She lived there, she cooked the meals, did the cleaning, all the things, and she was an owner operator, and this is 1940s, and she ended up operating. It was probably like late 30s through the 50s, but she operated for almost 20 years, and at some point in that period she became kind of known as a safe place for women travelers. So for a long time it was mostly women staying at the Wesleyan.
Really?
Yeah, which was called the Charter at that point, I think. Yeah.
That's so interesting. There's so much history here in Oak Cliff, and I would love to just get a bunch of people in the same room that have a little piece of history, and we kind of piece some of this stuff together. That's very, very interesting. Huh. So with all the development that you've done, specifically here in our Oak Cliff, and I love to call it our Oak Cliff because I live, work, play, pray, and all the things here in our Oak Cliff. Specifically here in Oak Cliff with the development, what are some of the key things that you're looking for when you're looking at an old building to restore?
Yeah, so great question.
Thank you.
And it depends, but generally speaking, we're looking for something that is like in really bad condition, being many times they're being marketed for land value. So it's like this property basically the seller has deemed the building to have zero value, and they're trying to sell it as the land value. Sometimes the property is historically protected, and so they can't tear it down, but it's in horrible condition, and they're actually selling it for less than the land value because it can't be torn down. That's happened to us at least once. so that's the kind of the first qualifying thing is like we know that we're going to spend a ton of money fixing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you really have to buy, especially if they're in really bad condition. You really got to buy them like for the land value. So that's like the economic factor.
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to see something that's interesting. It's just like I'm not trying to buy buildings that not like little 1960s retail strips that I don't find to be inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be something that's architecturally interesting, historically interesting, potentially locationally interesting, or like has an opportunity to, like at the hotel, we had the opportunity to do a hotel, which is hard to do in Oak Cliff. So that was like interesting from just being able to try a different product type out. But I think that the thing that we only work on projects we want to work on. So if there's not something that can get our gears turning and like, oh, this would be exciting or this would be fun, typically some kind of new adventure that we would be going on with the property, it's just not going to be that exciting for us. If we were just trying to do real estate, I mean, we'd be building big box apartment complexes like most real estate developers are doing, but that's just not compelling to us, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
More and more we're looking at community impact type stuff and working with the city, and I think that that's probably where our company is headed, to doing even more of that type work. So, and that's sometimes what makes these projects possible is the city involvement,
Sure.
or the National Historic Group also helps sometimes. So.
So, as an intentional developer, and I love talking to intentional developers to know what your process is. And one of the developers that I talked to said, Keandra, when I see a property that might be interesting to me, I just stand in the middle of the street and I just watch it.
Yeah.
That's his process. He just looks at it. He just stands there and watches it. What is your process when you see something of interest?
I mean, typically, probably my first step's going to be to research the history of it. I like that part of it. So, and I've gotten what we can do. It still takes hours to research a property, but I can get a pretty good grasp on the history of the property, what tenants had been there, what if it was. I'm researching one right now that's it's like I've learned about like every single bit. It's like a multiple unit building, and every business that's been there for the last 100 years. I want to understand what it was, and because sometimes understanding what something was can tell you what it can be, and you kind of like start to understand some of the future of its potential again. So a lot of times, if you understand what it was at its greatest potential when it was maybe first built, and then not a lot of times when we're buying it, it's in not in great situation, then trying to understand, okay, well, how do we figure out how to rebuild?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Back to its potential.
So I guess in thinking about the Madison Hotel, knowing what it was, in this case, determine what it would be.
Correct, yeah.
And because it has such a rich history, how do you honor, in this case, like the history of the hotel? How do you kind of keep that in front of folks?
I think first, like, the architecturally, you have to respect what was there.
Okay.
And we have to build to something that's architecturally appropriate for the history of the building. And then next, I think you can look at things about depending on what the history is. So the Oak Cliff Assembly might be a more interesting one to like see how we tied to the history. But we went and found like tons of old information about not only the Oak Cliff Assembly of God, but also Zion Hill Missionary Baptist Church. So it was two churches over the years. And like found a lot of information about that. You'll find that kind of information on our website, in the building. We have old like memorabilia from the churches, old records, old like all kinds of stuff that we try and incorporate into the design. So to try to not leave the story behind when we take it to its next chapter.
Yeah. And so you mentioned as an intentional developer how you engage with our community when you're building these or restoring these projects, creating spaces for our community. How much of the community's feedback is incorporated into these projects?
I mean, I think what we're learning is like you can't have enough of that. So, and certainly like that's been a process of like understanding like and doing better at getting the community feedback. It's also like sometimes hard to get the community feedback, especially in a neighborhood where many times they've been sold, promises that never came true. So I think that's like, I have a lot of empathy in that scenario, and we try hard to provide food and make it a time that people can get there, host multiple events. And then you get some feedback and you build trust. You have to build trust with the community first. I think the assembly was a great place for us to build trust in that particular area. And the East Dock's like right by assembly. So we already have when we were headed into East Dock, we were really, really prepared because we had already built a lot of trust, built a lot of relationships, friendships with people in the neighborhood. So then we were able to get a lot more feedback. And we probably had, maybe 100 people or so give us kind of written feedback on what they would like to see at East Dock, which is a great number. I mean, that's like a dream to get 100 people to tell you what they'd be interested in seeing. And I think that's just like a really, really important part of the equation. And not just to do right for the community, that obviously is the intention, but it also is very helpful to us to do right by the project. And to create a project that's sustainable and is not going to be a, here today, gone tomorrow.
A lot of developers don't get that part, and so kudos to you for understanding that community feedback is essential for a sustainable development, not only here in Oak Cliff, but anywhere, because if the community doesn't support it, they're not going to support it.
Correct.
Period. So it's not going to stay there. So kudos to you for that. How different, we're just talking about these three projects, Oak Cliff Assembly, East Dock, and the Madison Hotel. How different was that feedback that you were getting from the community for those three projects?
That's a great question. The Madison Hotel, we did less community input on because we knew we were going to make it a hotel. And so a lot of that was more talking about, like, do you think that if your parents are coming into town, do you think they would like to stay there, et cetera?
Makes sense.
So I would say generally speaking, though, if you just want to say generally speaking, what I think maybe is a part of the story that's not always told is areas that already have amenities are less inclined to want more development.
Sure.
Areas that don't have as many amenities, generally speaking, my experience has been, and I can only speak to my experience, but my experience has been that areas that don't have amenities, they want it.
Yeah.
So there's actually, and I think that's a little counterintuitive to what is said lots of times on social media or in the newspapers, et cetera. But, most people would like to have a grocery store that they can go to.
Yes.
Most people would like to have a coffee shop they can go to, and a restaurant and maybe a couple of restaurants, so they don't have to have that. They have options.
Right.
And that's the feedback that I would say is generally the case with the people, the neighborhoods that have less developed stuff. So they want those things. If you go to an area that already has a lot of development, there's a lot more, hesitancy to have more development in that area. Those neighbors tap the brakes when they already have 15 different restaurants they can go to.
That makes sense.
Yeah, this totally makes sense.
So I'm about to put you on the spot.
Let's go.
You ready?
I'm ready.
Other than the band thing, I know that puts you on the spot. But this is another one.
Yeah.
Of all the things that you've done, what's your favorite development?
My favorite development's always the one that I'm working on.
Okay.
So I said maybe a cheating answer. It's always the one that's in front of me. It's like I said, but when I walk into the property the first time, and it's like, I'm like, could be cool. Like we can do something special here, something that's going to resonate with people.
Yeah.
Something that hopefully will create years of experiences for people.
Yeah.
And like when you walk in the first time, you kind of get the goosebumps. And you're like, I can do something cool here. That first section of the project is always like whatever one so like right now I'm like East Dock. Like East Dock's my favorite project. But I promise you when I was working on the assembly, it was like the assembly is my favorite project.
Yeah.
When I work on the Madison, it's like the Madison's my favorite project.
Yeah.
And I got a couple more that I'm about to put in the oven, and those would be my favorite projects. So I think that generally speaking, we've learned as we've gone forward. So I think that the East Dock will be a very, very successful project because we learned a lot on the Oak Cliff Assembly on what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
And what the community wants.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's next for Proxy Properties?
Yeah, so good question again. I have a couple ideas of what we're working on, but I think generally speaking, like one of my like core ideas and values is like we as people are designed to create something.
Yes.
So we're always going to be looking for the next thing to create. And I think that we're working on some bigger stuff, and all in Oak Cliff still. But I think some of these ones are going to be slow burners, and we got to like really make sure we get them right. I'm working on the corner. This one is already out public, but we're working on the corner of Jefferson and Marsalis. It's the old Methodist church. It's a large red brick church, and we've spent a lot more time than I wanted to or intended to on the pre-development side, like making sure we got everything tied up in a perfect bow and that we're doing the type of development that is going to be appropriate for that corner.
Yeah.
That corner is like Jefferson Marsalis at certain points in Oak Cliff history was like arguably the most important corner in Oak Cliff, or the most like commerced corner in Oak Cliff. And I think that it has the potential to be that again, or at least one of them. And so we're trying to make sure we get it right. And so we spent a long time, a lot of hours making sure that we're getting that project right.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you're doing for our community. I appreciate you. I appreciate all the things. When we go to the Madison, we're just like, we were blown away the first time we went in the Madison Hotel. So I love the work that you do, what you create for our community, because we need intentional development here in Oak Cliff. We need it all over. We don't just need it in Oak Cliff, North Oak Cliff. I say that all the time. I hate the dividers.
Yeah.
It's just North Oak Cliff versus South Oak Cliff, and I hate those divisive things. And what I love is that you're developing our Oak Cliff, period. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you and talk to you about or give you some feedback, how could they do that?
Yeah, so typically every property we're working on, we will create a property website, which will have, especially in the early stages of the development, we'll have a feedback page.
Okay.
So we'll have like a space to submit feedback. We also have our proxy homepage, which has all of our information on there. And then, of course, like the reality is most people these days, social media. So hit us on social medias. We have, again, like most of the projects have their own handles, and then we have proxy, and then, of course, myself.
Okay, so what's the proxy website?
It's just proxyproperty.com.
Proxyproperties.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we close out, anything you want the community to know about AJ?
I think what I would say is I hope that you support what we're doing. More importantly, I hope you support the businesses that are coming and taking a chance on staying in Oak Cliff, and putting their best foot forward to open their businesses or their concepts. And a lot of people talk about supporting local, and I hope that they mean it.
Yeah.
You know,
they can put their money where their mouth is.
They put their money where their mouth is. So.
Support local.
Every single one of the tenants we've signed at Eastdock is from Oak Cliff. So you're guaranteed if you go to Eastdock to be supporting not only just a local Dallas person, but a local Oak Cliff person.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much, AJ, for being here.
So much fun.
Today. So thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Strictly Business Unscripted. We'll see you next time. I'm your host, Keandra Jones. And again, thank you for watching another episode of Strictly Business Unscripted. We'll see you next time.